Mr. Hamilton Smith, the chairman of the SAS Association, has welcomed the fact that this charge will be dealt with in a civil and properly constituted court. But he added, and I quote, "A charge is not a conviction, and the presumption of innocence applies. So far, there's been trial by accusation. And what the court process will prove is for all sides of the story to be heard and the truth to be established," unquote. Well, all this following an ABC Four Corners report showing Oliver Schulz allegedly shooting an Afghan in a wheat field. In other words, you go to war, it's kill or be killed, and you now have to be careful who you shoot and why. And if you're not shot on the battlefield, they'll metaphorically shoot you when you come home. Our vets are treated abominably. And here Oliver Schulz is in police custody and presumably will stay there until he appears in Downing Centre local court on May 16. May 16. The man is in custody. May I remind viewers that the government and the apologists for the Brereton report of General Yamashita, who was hanged on February 23, 1946, for crimes committed by his Japanese forces in defence of the Philippines. Yamashita was not personally accused himself of committing any crime, but he was court-martialed and hanged for, quote, failing in his duty as commander of the Japanese forces. The US Supreme Court upheld the decision that he be put to death because, quote, a commander can be held accountable for crimes committed by his troops, even if he didn't order them, didn't know about them, or didn't have the means to stop them, unquote. It's called the Yamashita Standard. It has been adopted by the Geneva Convention, and we are a signatory to the Geneva Convention. The Yamashita Standard is that, and I quote, the highest ranking officer is accountable for and should be prosecuted and convicted of the crimes of every officer and soldier under his command, even if he or she is unaware of that crime or was unaware and actually gave orders to stop it. Ignorance of the actions of his or her subordinates and failed attempts to stop them are not a defence, unquote. So, by all means, charge Oliver Schulz. But why can we abandon the Yamashita Standard, where, I quote again, the highest ranking officer is accountable for and should be prosecuted and convicted of the crimes of every officer and soldier under his command? So who were the commanding officers when Oliver Schulz was on duty in Afghanistan? Those people are currently the big brass, the Blazer Brigade, the Starched Shirts Brigade, the Epaulettes. You see them all the time. They were the commanders in Afghanistan. Why aren't they prosecuted? Or do we ignore the Geneva Convention? I repeat, if you want to prosecute Oliver Schulz, and we're a signatory to the Geneva Convention, why aren't we prosecuting those who were in command of the Afghan operation? Because the US Supreme Court upheld the decision to hang General Yamashita, who was not personally accused of committing any crime. But the court argued, quote, a commander can be held accountable for the crimes committed by his troops, even if he did not order them, did not know about them, or did not have the means to stop them, unquote. This is not over, I can tell you by a long shot. But present and past SAS soldiers have to live with all of this. And you've got to ask, how many more years do politicians plan to torture Australian soldiers on the basis of an ABC report? We are talking about buying nuclear submarines in the defence of the nation. This is a critical responsibility of government, the defence of the nation. But the charging of Oliver Schulz on the basis of an ABC report means that politicians seem intent on turning the armed forces into some social laboratory. As Professor David Flint once said to me in an interview, and I quote, just as well such an approach didn't apply in the Second World War, otherwise the rising sun would be flying over Canberra today.